Alhamdulillahi wa kafa. Wa salamun ala ibadihi allazina istafa. Amma ba'd. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Wa Ibadu al-Raḥmān alladhina yamshuna ala al-ardi hawna. Wa iza khatabahumul jahiluna qalu salama. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wa salamun ala al-mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammadin wa barik wa sallim. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammadin wa barik wa sallim. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammadin wa barik wa sallim. In the last series, we looked at the 10 stages, the 10 maqamat in the journey towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When the person is traveling this journey, the ultimate goal at the end is to become the truest abd of Allah, the truest servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is a rank that is called Ubudiyya, to become the abd of Allah. And not just any abd, but the truest of abd, the truest of servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is to be the slave of Allah, to be the abd of Allah. Abdullah, this title is the highest honor that any person can achieve. And the reason for this is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the Quran that Subhanallazi asra bi'abdihi, that pure is that being who transported his slave by the night from Masjid al-Haram to Masjid al-Aqsa. So referring to the Prophet ﷺ as abdihi, as the abd of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And even in our shahada, we say ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. That the Prophet says, first we testify to the Ubudiyya of the Prophet ﷺ, that the Prophet ﷺ is the truest of servant and slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then after that, we testify to the Risalat and the messengerhood of the Prophet ﷺ. So, being the abd of Allah, this is the highest honor that any person can achieve. And inshallah, in the next few days that we have, we want to share with you this topic of being an abd of Allah Ta'ala, what it means to be an abd of Allah. It's a topic that is very close to our heart. And we want to speak about this topic from the last section of Surah number 25, which is Surah Furqan. And this is a section where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes for us a very special group of people, a very special group of people. And what makes them special is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes them as Rahman. So this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala giving them a very special title, this title of Rahman. Abd, right? From Abd we have this word Ibad. And what Rahman means, the slaves of the incredibly merciful. So these are the incredibly loving believers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the truest, the pious believers. And they have been given this title by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself, that they are Rahman, They are the servants and slaves of the All-Merciful. Yani the believers can be called simply believers. You can call them mu'mineen, mu'minat. You can call them allazina amanu. We can be called the Muslims. There are many other titles. And we have all of those titles. But a very special, unique title that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen for these pious believers in this surah, Surah Furqan, is that they're Ibadu1. And in this surah, after this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will mention about 9 or 10 attributes of who are these Ibadu1. So tonight we will be looking at the first attribute of who are these people, the special people who are so beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But before we come to the first description, we need to understand this phrase, Ibadu1, which means the slave, yani the servants of the All-Merciful. The word Ibad is the plural of Abd. You have this word Abd first. Abd means the slave of Allah, or the one who accepts Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as his master is called Abd. And the plural of Abd in Arabic language, there are two plurals. One is called Abid, and the second one is called Ibad. Now, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses the plural here, we see that it's not Abidullah, right? It's not Raḥmān, right? It's rather Ibadu1. So there is a difference between the two words. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says Ibadu1 and not Abidur-Rahman, there is a difference. The difference is that Abid is used for all those slaves of Allah ta'ala, the ones who believe in Allah and the ones who don't believe, all of them. Like in Quran, Allah ta'ala mentions that Allah ta'ala does not do zulm al-abid on his servants. So Allah does not want to do wrong, obviously, on any of the slaves. That's all of them. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not do zulm on any of his servants, on any of his slaves. There the word abid is used. But Ibad is a very special people, are very special people. These are the ones who believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and not just believe, but they willingly devote themselves to the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with conviction and with sincerity. So just at the beginning, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is using the word Ibad, that is letting us know that here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be speaking about a very special category of individual. And we should all try that we can look for these attributes within us so that we can be part of this special category, these special people. So Ibad are those servants of Allah Ta'ala who willingly, lovingly, and with sincerity, they do the worship of Allah. And this also teaches us something about ibadah. People sometimes ask that what's the point of ibadat? Why should I worship? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us here that through ibadat can one truly become Ibadu1. They can become the servants of Allah Ta'ala. We need ibadat if we want to be included in this special category of people. If you want to be addressed with this very special title, we need ibadat. And this ibadat is our robe, it's our garment, it's our robe of honor. It's our garment. And the interesting thing about this title from a grammatical point of view is that we have what we call muzaf ilay, Ibadu1. And what that simply means is that the two words are bonded with each other. Grammatically, Ibad and Ar-Rahman, these are two words which are bonded with each other. They're two words are fused with each other. And grammatically, you say that there's nothing that can come between the muzaf and muzaf ilayh. They're inseparable. And the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is using that kind of a structure here, that in and of itself, right? Because there could be some particle in between. Allah ta'ala doesn't do that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fuses these two words together, and that is an indication that here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is describing a very close relationship with certain people. These are people who have a very close relationship with the Ar-Rahman, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So second point, right? These are very, very special people. So special that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is addressing them with the title of Ibadu Rahman, and they have a very, very close relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just the Arabic grammar is teaching us. And this is something we should be happy about. This is when the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is describing and giving nisbat to such people with His own self. Like Kitabullah, Rasulullah, Baytullah. These are all things which have nisbat with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these people, they have a nisbat, they have this connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So truly, they have the greatest of nisbat, the greatest of titles. And then the word that Allah ta'ala has many names, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have said Ibadullah, the servants of Allah, or Ibadul Khaliq, or Ibadul Malik, or Ibadul Raziq. And each one of those names has a certain connotation. It brings a certain emotion. But the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses the word Ibadur Rahman, that is highlighting for us something very important, very beautiful. Because Ar-Rahman is one of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which says that Allah ta'ala's mercy is all, Allah ta'ala's mercy and Allah ta'ala's love is all encompassing, it's extreme and it's immediate. Yani Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's rahmat is all encompassing, it's extreme rahmat of Allah, mercy incarnate. And it's also immediate that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sending His mercy all the time. That is Ar-Rahman. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses that name here, that these are the servants of the all-merciful, that being who is full of mercy, mercy incarnate. And hence, this relationship then is describing between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that this relationship will be one of love, care, and mercy. That these ibad are those who have been brought into the folds of Allah Ta'ala's love, into the folds of Allah Ta'ala's care, into the folds of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy. So the people whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is describing in this passage, right, all of us should make intention that we would love to be in this group. Because this is that group of people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He goes out of His way to care for them, to show them love, to shower His rahmat upon them. And similarly, these people, they're so special that not only they receive the special care, love, and rahmat of Allah Ta'ala, but they also display that rahmat when they interact with other people around them. So these people are also like lighthouses or beacons of rahmat, beacons of mercy. And mercy is manifested. Right? Everything about them manifests mercy. Their aqidah, their belief, their practices, their relationships, in their manners, in their talk, in their speech, in the way they carry themselves, in their family life, in their social dealings. We'll be coming to all of these. But the point, one thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions right at the front is that these people, they exhibit, they manifest, they display mercy in every aspect of their life. And they are receiving mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they also exhibit that mercy when they behave with when they interact with other people. And this is what the Prophet ﷺ said in a hadith, that the merciful, those who are merciful towards other people, they will be shown mercy by the most merciful. And if be merciful to those on the earth, and the one who is in the heavens will have mercy upon you. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Ar-Rehman, the most merciful. And the Prophet ﷺ is also Rahma, Rahmatul lil Alameen. The Prophet ﷺ is also the ultimate manifestation of Rahmat. Everything about the Prophet ﷺ was also mercy. The mission of the Prophet ﷺ, the Nabuwa, the Sunnah. And similarly, these people are also Ibadur Rahman. They receive this mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're in the folds of Allah Ta'ala's care and love, and they also display mercy with other people around them. So who are these people, right? And we're going to read a lot of descriptions now. But the beauty of all of these descriptions is, and as the ayat go, inshallah, there are two ways or two distinct ways of looking at these descriptions. And one way of looking at these descriptions is that there are going to be certain qualities of people, that who are these special people, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls them Ibadu Rahman. And interestingly, all of these descriptions that we're going to read grammatically speaking, they're not even a whole sentence, right? These are descriptions, are not even a whole sentence. It's actually what you call in Arabic language, mubtada. In English, you call this the subject. The predicate, which is the khabar, that is not even mentioned until about 10 verses later on. It's there, but it comes after about 10 verses. And since I brought this up, this concept of subject and predicate, just a few minutes to explain what this is. Just let me make it easy. So, in a sentence in English language, there is a part which is before the is, and then there is a part that comes after the is. Right? So, for example, you can say, this lesson is boring, right? So there is the part which is before the is, this class or this lesson, right? So that's the part before the is, and the part which is coming after the is, boring. So there are two parts. So the first part is called the subject, and whenever you say the first part, it doesn't tell you everything. It doesn't give you everything. It doesn't give you complete information. It just makes you think. It makes you curious, right? So if the part before the is supposed to make you curious. And then when you become curious, the part after the is comes and it tells you, right, gives you information. So let me tell you something about the subject. Let me give you some information about the subject. So the first part there is to make you curious, right? So for example, if I said the class is, and we just sign out, right? I don't finish my sentence. If I walk away, then, you will be curious that what about this class? The class is, right? So similar, why is this important? Because in these ayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the first about 9 or 10 ayat, they're all about the part which is coming before the is. It's all the part which is coming before the is. Right? And then after about 10 verses later, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give us what comes after the is. Right? So this is all building up the curiosity. Right? And inshallah, we'll keep what comes after the is at the end. Right? So we'll make all of us curious as well. We'll get to that inshallah, that what comes after the is. Now, there are going to be a lot of descriptions of this group of very special people, these beloved people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who are given this title Ibadu1. And there will be about 9 or 10 descriptions. But like I said, that there are two ways of looking at these descriptions. One way of looking at these 10 descriptions is to say that until you have all of them, you have failed. You haven't become Ibadu1. That's one way of looking at it. But there is also another clear way of looking at this, which is again there from the Arabic language, that this is not one group with 10 descriptions. There are actually 10 groups with 10 descriptions. Now, what does that mean? If I say about one person that he is strong, tall, knowledgeable, polite, these are all qualities, and all of those qualities are present in that one person at the same time, right? But if I say that these people are strong, and these people are tall, and these people are knowledgeable, right? I separated them. I separated them with an and. So this distinction is important because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is putting an and here, saying not all of these qualities belong to the same group. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves special people and they belong to different groups. So when we listen to these attributes, these descriptions, we should think, which group am I in? Which of these groups can I qualify for? And maybe we can qualify for more than one of these groups, and at least qualify for one, right? But we should then ideally be thinking that I want to qualify for all of these groups, for all of these descriptions. I want to qualify for that. So I can begin with one and then try to increase until I get all of these 10 descriptions within me. And I want to get all of them, because these people are very special people who are getting this special love and special care and special mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I want all of that. So I want to qualify for this. And I need to put myself in the categories of these 10 people. I want to adorn myself with these 10 descriptions. So that should be our intention when we read these ayat. And that should also be our dua, that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from the Ibadu1, and may Allah ta'ala beautify and adorn us with all of these 10 descriptions which are mentioned in these ayat. So the first of them, what is the first description? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِبَادُ الَّذِينَ يَمْشُونَ عَلَى الْأَرْضِ هَوْنًا. That they are those people who walk on the earth in humility. They walk, these special servants of the All-Merciful are the ones who walk around on the earth. And if they hang out, they go for a walk. It's actually telling us that they actually go for a walk, right? So they walk out and they walk on the earth. So they're walking in the mall, they're walking in the airport, they're walking at the university, they're walking towards the masjid, they're walking by the beach, they're taking a walk, they walk. But the way they walk, and in fact, walk doesn't just mean walking with your feet. We can generalize this that they drive, right? In our case, you drive your car. So that's also included here. When they're driving their cars also. So however, whenever they're hanging out, they're outside in the society. How do they walk, or how do they drive, or how do they, when they're outside in the society, how do they conduct themselves? Hauna, with humility. They walk around on the earth with humility. They have this element of humility within them. Hauna means that you feel weak before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You are humble because you realize that I am the abd of Allah. I'm the servant and slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you carry that identity with you wherever you are. You realize that I am faqir, I'm needy and dependent on Allah, like Allah says in Quran, Antumul fuqara'u ilallah. That each and every one of you is needy upon Allah, needy to Allah, dependent upon Allah. So they recognize, they acknowledge that they're needy of Allah. And hence, whenever they walk with humility. They're humble in their walk. They're humble in the way they talk. And humility, again, we need to understand, what does humility mean? It does not mean that when you walk on the street, you walk half in ruku, or like your shoulders are drooping down and you think that I'm humble. That's not humility. You walk upright. Humility is the kayfiyat of the heart. It's the feeling of the heart. It's the state of the heart, which means that humility means that you don't treat people like they're less than you. You don't talk down to people. And you're not arrogant. You don't have to be arrogant. You don't act in an arrogant way. You don't walk in an arrogant way. You don't even talk in an arrogant way. You don't even look at someone in an arrogant way. Because sometimes just by looking, there is a way to look, an arrogant look. That sometimes people look and they act arrogantly just by looking. Sometimes people don't look and they're acting in an arrogant way. Someone says salam and they don't even reply. So the key element here is humility. That wherever a person goes out, wherever you go, or whether you're at home, whether you're at work, whether you're at school, whether you're dealing with your employees, or you're dealing with your employer, or your teacher, or your students, or you're dealing with your children, or your elders, or your spouse, or your parents, whether they're Muslims, non-Muslims, when you deal with people, there is a certain humility in how you deal with them. You don't act in an arrogant way, in a superior way, and you don't make anyone feel worthless. Right? You walk with humility. So this is the exact opposite of arrogance. And arrogance, all of us know, is a disease of the heart. It's inside the heart. But when there is a disease inside, there is like a virus inside, there are symptoms outside. High temperature, sweating, right? All kind of stuff comes. It shows that there is a virus inside. So similarly, sometimes there can be symptoms of arrogance, right? Sometimes people, the way they look, they're not even saying anything to you, right? But they're looking at you, staring at you, and just that look on their face is an arrogant look, right? Sometimes we see this. Or sometimes it's the other way around. that you're not looking at someone. Somebody says salam to you, you don't even look at them. You just look the other way. You ignore them. That's also arrogance. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us here that if you want to be among the special people who receive this special love, care, and mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we need to have humility. Humility in the way we carry ourselves. And we need to remove arrogance from within us. In a hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said that no one will enter into Jannah if they have even an atom of pride and arrogance in their heart. So we have to remove this arrogance. We need to, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves those who carry themselves with humility. In a hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said that man tawaza'a lillah, whoever lowers themselves for the sake of Allah, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rafa'ahullah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raises that person up. And if you look at the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, we find that the Prophet ﷺ would carry himself with humility, would walk with humility. It wasn't an arrogant way of walking, not stamping the ground, but a soft, easy, humble way in which the Prophet ﷺ would walk. And the same thing you find even in the Sahaba Ikram, the greatest of human beings after the Anbiya alayhi salatu wassalam, but they were embodiments of this humility. Look at the life of Sayyidina Siddiq Akbar radiyallahu ta'ala an. He is one of the Ashra Mubashara. And once he was standing on the mountain of Uhud, and the Prophet the Prophet ﷺ said that, Uhud, why are you shaking? Siddiq is standing before you. And the Prophet ﷺ chose Sayyidina Siddiq Akbar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu for this journey of hijrat. So much fazilat, but then look at the life, that's so much humility. That when Sayyidina Siddiq Akbar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he would look at his own self, he would start trembling. And he would make dua that I wish my mother had not given birth to me. I wish I was the hair on the body of a believer. So this is humility. And once the Prophet ﷺ said about him that Man arada an yanzuru ila al-mayti ala al-ard falyanzur ila ibn Abi Qahafa. That if someone wants to see a dead man walking on the ground, on the earth, they should look at Siddiq Akbar radiyallahu ta'ala an. Such a lofty stature, but having so much humility in the way he would walk, in the way he would carry himself. Same thing about Sayyidina Umar radiyallahu ta'ala an. Such an incredible stature. But he would remind himself that, Umar, you are the son of that mother who used to chew dry meat, and then they would reduce her hunger with that dry meat. Humility. All of us are familiar with the fazail of Sayyidina Umar radiyallahu ta'ala an. The Prophet ﷺ said that لَوْ كَانَ بَعْدِي نَبِيًّا لَكَانَ Umar. That if there was a Nabi after me, it would have been Umar. And Haqq speaks on the tongue of Umar. And yet, such ajizi, that he would make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allahumma ja'alni fi ayni saghiran wa fi a'yunin nasi kabira. Oh Allah, make me small in my eyes and make me big in the eyes of other people. Yani make me small in my eyes so that I don't have pride and arrogance. And make me big in the eyes of others so that other people can take fayda and benefit from me. And once Hazrat Huzaifa radiyallahu ta'ala an was with Sayyidina Umar radiyallahu ta'ala an. Sayyidina Umar radiyallahu ta'ala asked him that, Huzaifa, I know that the Prophet has told you the names of the munafiqeen, the hypocrites, and also mentioned to you that don't reveal the names of the hypocrites. So I'm not asking you to tell me who are the people, who are the hypocrites, what their names are, but I'm just asking you this much. Tell me, is Umar's name in that list of hypocrites or not? Allahu Akbar. This was the humility of the Sahaba Ikram. Now, a person might say that I have humility, or maybe someone might say, I'm not sure if I have humility or not. So, how can I know if I'm humble? How can I check? Is there a litmus test? So, yes, there is a test. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the test in the very same ayat, the next part of this ayat. And if we're asking ourselves this question, then am I humble or not? Am I humble or am I arrogant? How would I know? How can I tell? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the test. And what is that test? وَإِذَا خَاطَبَهُمُ الْجَاهِلُونَ قَالُوا سَلَامًا. That when the jahilun, the ignorant ones, talk to them, they excuse themselves and they reply by saying salam. Yani when the jahilun speak to you, who are the jahilun? Jahil in Arabic language refers to that person, to those people who have no control over their emotions. Right? So when such a person speaks to you, someone who doesn't have control over their emotions, they talk to you. Right? So when obnoxious people talk to you, when arrogant people talk to them, when ignorant people talk to them, when foolish people talk to them, when angry people talk to these people, to the Ibadu Rahman, talk to them, when insulting people talk to them, when disrespectful people talk to them, how do they respond? Qalu salama. They respond with peace, with calmness. They respond with a statement of peace and calmness. And this is their attribute, the attribute of the Ibadu Rahman. This is the first attribute, that they, when somebody insults them, and all of us know, right, that when someone insults you, it hurts. When somebody talks to you badly, it hurts. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is calling all of these people jahilun. And jahil, like I said, in the Arabic, it's the opposite of aqil. Aqil. Aqil means someone who has control over their emotions. They use their intellect to restrain themselves. Right? The opposite of aqil is jahil. No control. A bad word comes into their mind and just comes out of their mouth. They don't think about it. They don't restrain. They don't hold back. So, when we are confronted with such people, if we also start responding, right? If we also act in a jahil way, then we will be disqualifying ourselves from this category number one. We have to learn forbearance, hilm. These are people who walk with humility and they talk calmly. And when someone tries to provoke them, someone foolish person says something foolish to them, right? So they respond with forbearance, with hilm. And it's interesting that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says here that وَإِذَا خَاطَبَ, that when the ignorant people talk to you, it doesn't say if ignorant people talk to you. So we know the difference, right? That the difference between if and when. If means it may happen or it may not happen. Maybe some ignorant person might talk to you. Maybe some angry person will talk to you. Maybe some insulting or disrespectful person will talk to you. Maybe, right? Or maybe they won't talk to you. Maybe you won't have to encounter any person, any such person in your life. Allah Ta'ala does not use the word if. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِذَا خَاطَبَ. When the ignorant person talk to you, when these people talk to you, when angry people talk to them. It's not, it might happen, might not happen, it will happen to you. It will happen to you that such people, angry people, will talk to them. And these ignorant, foolish people will talk. It happens, right? So when it happens, then how are we supposed to respond? You're not supposed to get worked up. Don't be arrogant. Don't get full of yourself, right? Maybe other people are acting in that way because, there's some other things going on in their life. You don't know why people speak to you in the way that they're speaking. Maybe they're just letting their anger come out on you. They're not angry on you. There's something else happening in their life. Whatever it is, you are supposed to act with them. Be merciful. Be merciful. Be courteous. Be peaceful to them. One should act according to the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not the sight of others. Think that Allah ta'ala is looking at me. How would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala want me to act? Don't think that, this person and how should I act according to these people. Don't stoop to their level. Don't stoop down to the level of anyone who's attacking you. They are committing a misdeed. They are insulting or disrespecting or angry or letting all their emotions out. They're responsible for their own deeds. Why stoop down to their level? You are responsible for your deeds. We should be focused on Ar-Rehman, Ibadu Rahman. These are, after all, the servants of Ar-Rehman. They are just attentive towards Ar-Rahman. These are people who have adorned themselves with the sifat of Rahman. Just like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Ar-Rahman, these are the servants of Ar-Rahman. They're merciful. They're acting according to the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants them to act. So they act with forbearance. They act with that merciful nature. They're polite. They're courteous. They act with softness. And this is the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, to swallow your anger. When someone tries to make you angry, right? You swallow your anger. You are composed. You practice patience with people. You only express anger when absolutely necessary. And that too when there is concept of a lawful anger. But otherwise, you just say, I will not engage. You control, you swallow that anger. And this is very difficult, right? But this is something that needs to be done. We need to learn how to swallow our anger if we want to be amongst the Ibadu Rahman. So there are ways in which we can control our anger. We should try to be quiet. When someone tries, this is the best and the most effective remedy, but also the most hardest. When ignorant people talk to you, or they insult you, or they make you angry, and you want everything to come out, be quiet. This is the automatic way to diffuse, to handle the situation. When the valve is about to explode, right, you just diffuse it and you remain quiet. And there comes in a hadith Mubarakah, the Prophet ﷺ said that when a person is angry, they should sit down. If he's sitting down, he should lay down. Change position physically. You can just, leave that gathering, leave that place, leave that location. And there is a hikmah here, because when you are closer to the ground, the more humble they are. Right? You change your position such that you come closer to the ground, closer to humility. You can change the room. You can perhaps go to the, to the bathroom, go there and make wudu. That's another thing which can be done. because anger is made out of fire and water extinguishes it. So use water, splash it on your face, cool down. Cool down. These are ways. You can even say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. When a person is in a state of anger, in a hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said that if you recite this A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, this ta'awwuz, this can control the anger. One can say La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Not just say this once, but say it several times repeatedly. And another very effective remedy to control our anger, especially at this time, is that you should think about the anger and the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you're really angry, then think what this person did. This person made a mistake. And I'm getting so angry. But I've also made so many mistakes in my life. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decides to be angry at me, just like I am at this person, then what would happen? Right? So think about the wrath of Allah. Think about the mercy of Allah, that I want Allah Ta'ala to be merciful towards me. So I also have to show mercy and be forgiving and be forbearing towards other people. It comes in a hadith that a person who shows mercy on others, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will show mercy on them. We should think that I'm also the abd of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And again, this was the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, for about 13 years, persecuted in Makkah Mukarramah. 13 years of persecution, 13 years of boycott. All the children of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam were affected by that persecution. And still, the Prophet ﷺ, at the time of Fatah Makkah, the conquest of Makkah Mukarramah, what did the Prophet ﷺ say? The Prophet ﷺ went to them and said that I will treat you as my brothers, as Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi treated his brothers. I will forgive all of you. Subhanallah, that is the sunnah. Once, Hazrat Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he was in the battle. And when you're in a battle and your friends are dying in front of you, or to the left and to the right, so he's fighting with somebody and he overcomes that person and he took out his sword and he's about to kill that disbeliever. And what happened is that at that moment, that person spits on the face of Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Now, if anyone did this to us, we'll just slap that person, we'll be upset with them. But Hazrat Ali radiallahu ta'ala an, he had so much control over his emotions. This is وَإِذَا خَاطَبَهُمُ الْجَاهِلُونَ. That he had so much control, he took back his sword and said that I'm not going to kill you. And that person was shocked that you're not going to kill me. I just spat on your face. Hazrat Ali radiallahu ta'ala, he said, no. Because now if I kill you, there might be this added thing that I will kill you for my own personal reason. I won't kill you for the sake of Allah. Before this, I would have killed you for the sake of Allah, so I'm not going to kill you. That much anger control, that much control over emotions. And this is the beauty through which Islam has spread. That person became a Muslim. Right? How many other people must have converted to Islam because of him? So if the more control we have over our emotions, our anger, the more we will benefit ourselves and the more beneficial we're going to be for the rest of the society. There's one story of Hazrat Salman Farsi radiallahu ta'ala an. Once someone came and criticized him. Right? We can imagine this, some ignorant, some person came and criticized him that you are unjust and you are this and you are that and you're a bad person. And look at the way Sayyidina Salman Farsi radiallahu anhu responded. He simply said that if on the day of judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showered me with his mercy, then your taunts will mean nothing to me. That's it. And he was looking at the big picture. And on the other hand, if I get angry right now, it's going to hurt me. It's not going to hurt you. So these were the people who would look at the big picture and they would just respond with a peaceful statement, with composure, with calmness. There's another story about Hazrat Abdullah ibn Masud radiyallahu ta'ala an. And once someone stole something from him, we get angry that someone robbed us, right? So someone said to him that, why are you not getting angry that someone robbed you? And he responded that if that person stole out of a need or a necessity, I will forgive him. And if he stole out of some malicious intent, then I will make dua that, oh Allah, let this be the last sin that this person ever does in his life. Subhanallah. Qalu salama. Responded with salam, with salamati, with dua, that let this be the last sin of this person. And how would we respond, right? We would start cursing that person from the very start. So sometimes people say that the other person also wants to fight. This is the way to diffuse. When you say that you want to fight, I'm not going to fight. I'm not going to fight, right? That's it. That will diffuse their anger. So once Maulana Room Rahmatullah alayh, he was going and someone came up to him, and again they said that an angry person came, and in their anger he was saying lots of things to Maulana Room Rahmatullah alayh. And he also said that, oh Maulana Room, if you say one thing to me, I will say 10 things to you. And he was so angry. He said, if you say one thing, I'm going to do 10 things to you. And Maulana Room Rahmatullah, he responded and he said that, oh my friend, if you say 1,000 things to me, in reply, I will not say even one thing to you. This is called Qalu Salama. These are the people who had control over their anger. That I'm not going to do anything. Even if you say 1,000 things, do 1,000 things to me, I'm not going to do. I'm going to be affected. So that's something what happens. When you're angry with someone, we want to escalate. We want to do something. We want something to happen. But the way to diffuse is simply, right, make dua for that person. Control that situation. And if we can do this, then the Prophet ﷺ in a hadith mentioned that a person who has the ability to let out their anger, they have the ability to let out their anger, but they control their anger at that time, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant them iman and sukoon. Allah ta'ala will put the sweetness of iman and tranquility in their heart. Whoever is able to control their anger at a time when they can act upon their anger. And next thing, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will stop his punishment from reaching that person, a person who can control their anger. So we need to become people of softness. We need to become people, we need to calm down, right? We see so many examples that the Bedouin Arabs would come to the Prophet ﷺ and they would be yelling at the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ would not get upset. Some of the Sahaba Ikram would say that we can kill that person. The Prophet ﷺ would say, just relax. Right? This is the Sunnah of Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam. We need to learn to calm down. And for those of us who are married, all the more in our relationship with our spouse, right? For the men, sometimes your wife will say a lot of things to you to make you angry. Now, when you hear that, you don't say jahiluna, right? You say salama, right? Just don't talk back. Be quiet, right? The converse, same thing. When husbands will say things Sometimes husbands can say things that can boil your blood, right? And again, one should not, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given this very special power to women that they can answer in a way that can literally ignite the heart of the other individual, right? The most amazing power that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given, but we're not supposed to use that. وَإِذَا خَاطَبَهُمُ الْجَاهِلُونَ قَالُوا سَلَامًا. Salama, right? When the husband is out of control, becoming too emotional, too angry, just change the subject. Salama. And salama does not mean that you say salama, salama, salama. Not like that. Salama means that this is Arabic grammar, that you speak calmly. You don't lose your own composure. You have that forbearance within you, right? They speak calmly. They speak peacefully. They speak in a way that disarms the other person, that diffuses the anger, that diffuses the situation. So we have to calm down, right? The Prophet says, these were the akhlaq of Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam. And this is what we need when we interact with other people, because you will be dealing with people. We'll meet all kinds of people, all kinds of temperaments. Some of us are stuck with the boss, right? Angry person. Some of us might have employees, we might be angry with them. Some of us might have teachers, or you have students that make you angry. In every relationship, we need to practice this calmness, right? The Prophet ﷺ would not become angry. Hazrat Anas radiallahu ta'ala an would say that I lived with the Prophet ﷺ for about 8-10 years, and the Prophet ﷺ in that whole span never told me that why did you do this? Why didn't you do this? The entire time. So the Prophet ﷺ's akhlaq, this is the akhlaq, qalu salama. And we need to learn this. This is really important. Why is this important? Because the next time when we're in such a situation, we have to force ourselves to be humble. We have to walk with humility and speak calmly, not respond in anger. Why? Because I want to be amongst the Ibadu Rahman. We need to remember this ayat. I want to be amongst the Ibadu Rahman. That's why I don't want to do this. Sometimes we need to practice this within our family as well, with our parents, right? Sometimes you will have people in your own family that don't like hearing from you, especially for those who are religious people, right? Religious people, you want to teach deen to other people, deen to your family members, those who are distant, right? You want to bring them closer to deen, right? But you should speak to them with calmness, peacefully. Right? You can't be angry that why don't you wear hijab? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Right? If you speak angrily, then you will make them distant from deen. You have to speak with them calmly. Your anger will only take them further away from deen instead of bringing them closer. We need to have a soft heart towards others who are not there yet. We were not praying 5 times a day. Right? There was a time when we were not like that. And if somebody spoke to us angrily at that time, we wouldn't start praying, we would go further away. You should think about it, right? So we need to soften our heart and be soft to people. Softness is a very beautiful quality. Allahu Akbar Kabir. In Quran, Allah Ta'ala mentions that Sayyidina Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam that be soft, be nice when you speak to Fir'aun. Allah Akbar. Fir'aun. That Fir'aun who would say that I am Rabbul Allah, I am God. Fir'aun who tried to kill Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, when he would kill thousands of baby Bani Israel every year. And there are so many reasons why you may not want to be nice to Fir'aun. But Allah Ta'ala is saying in Quran that when you go to Fir'aun and you preach and you teach him deen, قُولَا لَهُ قَوْلًا لَيِّنًا. Speak to him layyina, with softness. So if we are supposed to speak softly and nicely to Fir'aun, then what about your wife? What about your husband? What about your children? What about your cousins? What about your sister? What about your brother? What about your uncle? No, these are the people who make us angry, right? The family makes us really angry. Siblings make us angry. So we have to change the way we behave with them. Qalu salama. Qalu salama. In fact, it's so interesting that if you were to look at the word that is right at the middle of the Quran, the word which is right in the middle of the Quran must be a very special word, right? Which is the core middle word. And what is that middle word? It's wal yatalattaf. It comes in Surah Kahf. And sometimes it's written with in bolds and slightly the font is bigger, larger. What is so special about this word that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen this word to be the central word of the entire Quran? And the answer is the meaning of this word is beautiful. Wal yatalattaf means that speak softly to other people. That's the central core message that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving in the Quran by placing it in the middle. Then when you interact with others, when you behave with them, behave with people, speak softly, act with softness. Allah ta'ala loves softness. So, in conclusion, we make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant all of us the ability that we can understand, we can implement this in our life. So this is category number 1, the first description, that we have to learn that if we want to be amongst the Ibadu Rahman, the servants of the All-Merciful One, this very special group of believers who get this very special mercy and love and care from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we need to learn that we walk with humility and we speak calmly. We have humility within us in the way we talk, in the way we act. We don't have arrogance, we don't have pride. And we speak with calmness, peacefully. And when someone tries to provoke us, or angry people say things to us, or foolish people or ignorant people say things to us to provoke us, we exercise forbearance. So we make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the ability to implement whatever we have heard, and may Allah ta'ala adorn us with all the sifat of the Ibadu Rahman, and may Allah ta'ala put our names also in this list of the Ibadu Rahman. May Allah ta'ala shower His special rahmah, His special love and His special care upon all of us tonight. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Subhana rabbil al-wahhab. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammadin wa barik wa sallim. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. وصلى الله تعالى على حبيبه خير خلقه محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.